What's up, everybody? It's your boy TKO, Todd Konakoa. Welcome to the Consecrate podcast, where we consecrate our efforts for the good of our families and humanity. Today's guest went from making thousands of dollars a day dealing methamphetamines to losing everything and landing in prison. But instead of letting prison destroy his life, he used it to rebuild himself. Today, he owns real estate, has financial freedom, and lives a completely different life. This is a story about crime, consequences, redemption, and rebuilding from nothing. And so, welcome to the show. I appreciate you coming on and being willing to tell your story. But before we get into everything, tell everyone who you are today and what your life looks like now. Like, I guess start with your name.
Well, hi. My name's Homero. My life is a lot different now than what it used to be 25 years ago. So yeah, I live a pretty normal life now. Got a wife and 4 kids, and they're all pretty much grown up. So at the tail end of raising kids.
Okay. And so, so you're a father, you're a husband, and you're the patriarch of your family. You have like a lot of guys that I've talked to have an anchor. That's their anchor for everything in their life. So that's awesome. But let's rewind the clock. So, where'd you grow up? What was your childhood like? Things like that.
Yeah, so I come from a really close family. There's 10 of us. There's 10 siblings. I'm number 9. There's 5 boys and 5 girls. Yeah, back when my parents were our age, they wasn't TV was not very common, so they did have 10 kids, and we're all really tight. We all still talk to each other. Everyone's still alive, thank God. And we're always been there to support each other in every way. Like I talk to them all the time. I recently came back from a trip from visiting my 3 brothers that are in Mexico. And yeah, so it's we're all grown up now, and we're all still taking care of each other.
That's awesome. Close-knit families like that can really be the community. You're blessed. A lot of people don't
Yeah.
have that, and that's
Yeah,
probably
so
have something to do with your culture as well.
we so I was born in Mexico. We all migrated to the US in 91. We came to California. We're there a couple of years, and then we ended up coming up here for work. Like my parents found work up here, so we all migrated up here, and that's really where my life begun. As when I came to the US, I was 8 years old, so I didn't quite grow up in Mexico, but that's where I was born at.
Orgullo Mexicano. All right, I'm with it.
Okay.
So I guess you grew up like. At what age did you like? I guess I'll just get to it. Like, at what age did you enter the drug game?
Well, um, really young. I want to
Or
say I
how'd you
was
get there?
17 years old. How I got into it was I ran away from home um, at the age of 16. I was living in California. I moved up here with a sister of mine so I could have some housing because I was kind of homeless there for a couple of weeks. Moved in with her, and then while I was going to school my senior year, the freedom I had by not having my parents around, I started hanging out with a bunch of friends that were doing some meth and hanging out and like late nights. And I started hanging around with them. I just thought they were a pretty cool crowd. I was not familiar with drugs before this, so that's how I got into it. Like I was just around it, and then eventually I ended up smoking some of the meth, and then let's see, but I ended up dropping out of high school like 2 months before graduation, and the guilt that I felt by like everything that was happening, I just felt like I didn't have any options. I felt like this was what I was going to do because I started making some money, and I started feeling like, you know what, I can do this. I don't really need high school. I don't really need a job. And then it all backfired. So
Okay.
I did this for a couple of years, and then everything just went downhill. I did real good, but then I everything fell apart when I started consuming it.
Yeah. It's funny how that works, huh? Like, it's good, like, especially initially. And then myself, I've dabbled in that, and unfortunately, and it's like it's almost like you need more and more of it for it to continue its potency. And I was reading somewhere that methamphetamines is actually 1,000 times or something more potent to the brain than cocaine is. So it's no mystery that when
What's
people
crazy
get on
is
this
like
stuff, it's just
when I
like,
first did it, I what's crazy for me,
Wait, what?
When I smoked it first couple of times, I didn't even feel really anything. I just felt like I could stay up all night long. That's all it was for me. It was like drinking an energy drink. I just was just up all night long. And then before I knew it, all I could do was sleep because of being on it for a couple days. And then so it just consumed me. Like I lost track of time. Um, it got to
Yeah.
be where I would fall asleep one day and I'd wake up 30 hours later, and I would like if I'd go to sleep like 7, 8 o'clock at night, I'd wake up like the next day around 10 o'clock at night and I'd think I just fell asleep for like 2 hours and not realize that I was actually asleep for a full day in a few hours. Days just blended together and I got really disoriented and it was pretty crazy, man.
Yeah, I think I get it. 5 days on, 4 hours of half sleep, and then 5 more days. Like it's a hard drug. You can't. People think they can manage it. It's not true. So I guess my follow ups to that would be like, what you started getting into selling it. So how did that happen? Like what was the moment you realized you could make like real money from this?
So I had a couple of so I would at first I was new to this and I didn't understand what was happening, but a lot of the friends were smoking it. They were consuming it in different ways, and I was just around. I wasn't. I was scared of. I didn't know what it was or anything. And then being around them and seeing and riding along in the cars with them, I started seeing how much money they would spend on it. And then I figured, well, like a lot of the people that were buying it from were Mexican. So I would talk to them in Spanish and they'd be like, hey, I can get you a deal. You can sell it to your friends. And at first I was like scared and everything, but my own friends were the ones that were consuming it. So for me, it was like, well, why not? I'm the only sober one in the group. And I would just get it fronted from these friends, from these people that I would meet, mainly Mexicans, and they talk to me like once a week and I started paying them back. It got to the point where it was like thousands of dollars a week. And it started being
That's more than
lucrative
a
enough to
union guy
where,
makes.
yeah, yeah. It had its good days and it had its bad days. Because I was sober, I was able to make a lot of money and keep track of everything. It all fell apart when I started consuming it. My days started blending together. There was like everyone that was my friend, I started hearing from other friends that I was passed out. Like they would go through my pockets and like and the next day they
Mm.
freaking helped me find the shit that I was missing. Uh,
Bro, straight
they,
tweaker 101 right there.
yeah, and then like I'd spend days like, what happened to this and what happened to that, trying to piece everything together. And like for me, man, I didn't come from a drug addict family. I came from a really good family that was like in church all the time, that was a lot of family morals and a lot of family values. And so I was like the black cat of the family. Like nobody people looked at me and were like,
Hmm.
you've lost a lot of weight. What's going on with you? Can I help you? And the more they talked to me about it, the more I would shy away from them.
Jenny
I
Craig,
would try
baby.
to hide. Yeah, I would try to hide from them and I would avoid them. And then like I basically cut ties with most of my family. And that wasn't like me. So or that was not like any of us. So it was a pretty crazy experience. I never wanted to be on the drug. So I would fight myself to like stay off of it. The problem I ran into to try and get off of meth was that I was my wife was pregnant, my current wife was pregnant. We're still together since high school. And so what would happen was since I was on it, I would have to help her with some of the rent money. And if I tried to get off the meth, I'd be asleep sometimes for 2 days. I'm talking like 48 hours or pretty close to 48 hours and I lose
Straight
track of
comatose.
time. Yeah, and like she would be like, I would be expected to provide some kind of something towards rent, and I felt like the only way for me to fulfill my obligation to help out was to produce some kind of money. So me keeping track of all the money, me keeping track of who I was also lending or fronting, I lost track of all of it. I lost track of all of it, and so my that was like my rock bottom point where I tried to get off of it. I couldn't get off of it because I felt pressured into keep doing it, keep selling it, and for me to stay up and try to collect all the money that I had all over. I had to keep consuming it.
Um, you were required to help pay for rent.
The pressure of feeling like I had to help pay some of the rent, I just felt like I had to keep going. I had to continue to produce this money, and I was so involved with um like different crowds. I would have to chase down different crowds for because I had a lot of people calling me, and those points, those weeks where I was able to, I don't know, get rid of 2, 3, 4 pounds a week, and it'd be like a $10,000 to $15,000 week for
Wow.
me. Uh, then, like I was saying, when I lost track of this of people, and I started consuming it, that money was dwindling to pretty much nothing. To where people were they stopped paying me. Uh, it was a pretty tough time because a lot of the stuff was being fronted to me, and then a lot of the stuff I was having to pay for myself. So it was pretty crazy. And then I think a lot of different groups started also kind of going through the same thing. Like friends of mine that were also consuming, they started going down the same path of heavy use of the meth to where they would also lose track. And I mean, there was a period of time where it was like nobody ever slept, man. It was pretty bad here. And you know,
So for the person that viewing this,
go ahead.
sorry to cut you off, but so for the viewing audience, like that's never done drugs, like it probably meth really does take over the lives of people that it touches, and it's like I said, it's more potent to the brain, thousands times more potent than cocaine, and so it makes total sense to me because I've also seen that as well with almost anyone that's done it, and just for the record, like it's around all the guys that I ever, because I messed with the essays too when I was younger, and it's very uncommon to meet someone that's doing so well selling pounds of, unless you're in that circle, right? I was never in that circle, so I never saw it. But most people are just addicts, and they're not businessmen, right? Sounds like that's what started to happen as you started to use the drug. It kind of took away from your business savviness.
Yeah, um, definitely. I was very, very profitable when I was not using it. When I started using it, like everything fell apart. Everything started blending together. Everything just fell apart. Even relationships that I had with people that were really relying on me to push this through for them, they also started feeling like, can I trust this guy? Like, is this guy gonna like make it through this, or is he gonna like turn into someone like other people where they start consuming it and they start disappearing? So that was a concern that these people had.
So were there any were you ever in any danger? Were there any dangerous parts of all this stuff happening?
There was a couple of times where, well, there was 2 times where I got a gun pulled on me. So as people stopped paying me or start being reliable, and I started like saying I can't trust this individual anymore, I got to find someone else for an outlet, I would find different crowds, or different crowds would like reach out to me and say, "Hey, you know, I'm doing this. I need someone that can supply me." So in 2 different occasions, I walked into a setup. So somebody that I knew had set me up with some people, and because at first I would only sell it to 1 or 2 people, and then as I started using the drug, I started trusting others, and so I walked into a situation where I got into the front seat, showed the guy. I want to say it was like 7 or 8 ounces. So it was pretty close to a half pound of meth, and the deal was we were gonna like introduce some cut to it and turn it into like a few more ounces. And we are going to do this together. Well, his buddy that was in the back seat pulled the gun out, told me to leave the stuff in the seat or on the floor and walk out of the car. At gunpoint, I didn't even see the gun. I felt the gun. I didn't turn around and see it or anything. And as I stepped out,
The heck,
I've already dealt with this long enough. Like, fuck this. I'm going to like, I pulled the guy out of the back seat, even though he had a gun. And we got into a fight. Lucky
Homero.
thing he didn't shoot me.
Dang, I lost him again. Yeah, it's probably the hotel Wi-Fi. That's my guess.
I can still see you. Are you there?
Oh, so you're at this point, you're like, okay, I'm kind of just, a lot of people experience like this type of stuff
Yeah.
because of the drugs, and so you started getting this whirlwind of FAFO, F around and find out, like we all do, right?
Yeah.
And how did you get caught up? Like what led you to basically getting caught? up and going to prison?
So that's a good question. Man, so with all these different groups that I was involved with, what ended up happening is a friend of mine got robbed. And during that time, there was a lot of investigations happening. Well, my name got brought up. I don't know who the hell brought the shit up. Somebody brought my name up that I should probably be interrogated because I was a friend of his and maybe it was a drug deal gone wrong. So what ends up happening, cops come in, kick my freaking door down. I go to jail, or they find a bunch of drugs and guns at my house, and they lock me up for the guns and drugs that they found. Never told me about my friend or anything like that. Then as I'm sitting in jail, they finally charged me with the drugs. They finally charged me with the drugs, and then they're asking me if I know these people or know those people, and like they were like after, not really necessarily after the drugs. They were after like just like friends of mine, and they wouldn't tell me why. And so um they ended up charging me with the drugs and the guns that they found. They ended up giving me 34 months in jail for the guns and the drugs.
How many months?
34 months, just shy of 3 years.
Okay, so 3 years.
Yeah. They gave me like, yeah, a little bit shy of 3 years. So yeah, 3 years in jail. That was my saving grace, man. Jail for me was the moment I needed to breathe and to get off this terrible freaking drug. As I sat in jail, all I could think about was, shit, my 1-year-old son's gonna grow up without me. My wife's gonna move on. Girlfriend at the time was gonna move on. And I just felt like a piece of shit. Like everything I grew up, all the values that I had growing up, the family, everything I was gonna throw away. I was gonna have a kid just calling somebody else a dad. And to me, that was like the worst thing ever. My girlfriend, now my wife, visited me all the time. Every freaking weekend she was there, and every time she'd come, I hated going back to my freaking cell, man. That was like, it was always a reminder of, I messed this up. Like, why did I mess this up? And the whole time I was in jail, she visited me like every single weekend. I was so frustrated with myself. I was so frustrated with how everything had played out, to where a couple of times I turned him away. Like the guard would come say, "Hey, you got a visitor," and I'd say, "I don't want a visitor." Well, that right there, like I was trying to tell her to, I was going to be in there too long and might as well move on. But those 3 years, they flew by pretty fast. Everybody finds God
So,
when they're locked up.
Homer,
Go ahead.
sorry, there's a delay, but so yeah, so most, like, a lot of people romanticize prison, but obviously the
Mhm.
reality is a little different. So what was besides your wife coming to visit you? And I remember that. I remember a lot of the
Yep.
details of the things that were surrounding your case without getting into it. So,
Yeah.
but like, what was your experience in prison like? For 3 years, there's a lot of things that you'll see and learn in there. Did you have any trouble in there in prison at all, or did you said it flew by pretty quick?
Flew by pretty quick. I did have a couple of rough months. There was a lot. It's crazy that all the people that were missing from out here, they were locked up. Like the people that I couldn't find, the people. So I had a lot of relationships in jail. Like people, I knew hundreds of freaking people. Where I had some tough times
Yeah,
was
everyone knew you.
like, yeah, where the people that tried to rob me, or actually robbed me twice, I found them in jail. You know, and turned into some fights, turned into me going to the hole, along with some other friends of mine that helped me beat these fuckers up. Sorry. And like that, so that was really the hardest part is when you go in there, all of a sudden they're trying to figure out why you're there, and then like some of them want to click up with you, and some of them, like I didn't know that you're supposed to sit with your own kind, and like I go to prison and I just find the empty seat, and like they're looking at me saying, "No, no, 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 come here," and then they had me they had me go sit next to a bunch of paisas, and they were like, "Why are you here?" Because there's like three or
Orale.
four different yeah, there's like 3 or 4 different Mexican groups in jail. You got the norteños, the sureños, and then the paisas. Usually the paisas are in there for selling drugs. So that's who I ended up hanging out with the most, was the people that were there for selling drugs, that weren't affiliated with any gang or anything.
Smart move. Smart move.
Yeah, and never got asked to do anything crazy. I did get asked to, like, there was a bunch of drama when I arrived at prison between some people and myself, and they were like, if you're going to defend yourself, then we got your back. If you're not going to, like the Paisas were, they were like, if you're not going to defend yourself, you're on your own. So basically, you're going to fight and defend yourself, or we're not going to help you. Lucky thing, nothing came
I
about
think I
that.
remember
You
that.
know, we met up the handball court. Yeah, it was a big deal, man. I was freaking scared. I didn't know what I was gonna face. Like, I just knew that there was a dude that had an issue with me. Had to meet him at the freaking handball courts, and like either I defend myself or the whole freaking campus was gonna turn their backs on me. So I was like, well, I'm going. Lucky thing, we went in there, and the guy was in there huffing and puffing about trying to mess me up. Was actually somebody I was friends with, and went in there, shook the guy's hand, asked him what was going on, and he told me that, you know, the person, anyway, this was a favor to somebody that he was gonna take care of me for him, or I don't know, man. It's a bunch of jail drama, but nothing ever came about it, and that was
That's good.
probably like the scariest point when I was there, man, is not knowing that there's a group of people that had it out for me, but then when I spoke to them, they didn't really have anything that they were mad at me about. Like, it was just jail drama that didn't come out to be anything. So that was about it.
It never ends, dude. It blazes.
Yeah.
And the higher level ups in custodies, there's so much politics. It's retarded. You know,
Yeah.
even at like camp level, but when people that are trying to enforce any type of politics, I just look at them. I used to look at them. I was like, I was just in close custody in Walla Walla, and you are trying to enforce politics here at this camp where everyone's trying to go home. What is wrong with
Yeah.
you? So that's what I used to think. So obviously, every transformation story has a moment where something changes. What was the moment? You said you had a lot of people find God in prison, but what was the moment that made you decide you weren't going back to this life?
You know, when I got out of jail, it wasn't necessarily while I was in jail. That turning point for me was getting out. So when I finally got a taste of work release and got into having to ride a bike to my job because they wouldn't let me drive, I got the weekends to go hang out with my wife and my kid. Luckily for me, I had work release and I was able to get a job, and I stayed in work release. I stayed at that job for about 4 years after prison, and my wife and kid were there the whole time with me. Like, we got an apartment as soon as I got out. That's when I was like, you know what? Like, there's no, like, when I got out, man, like, and this is being very transparent, when I got out, there was people, like, I was owed close to $100,000. And I started looking for everyone that owed me all this money. And I was like, I'm not giving these guys anything. I'm here to fucking collect my money. I want my money. Found everybody missing teeth, cracked out. The dealers that I was dealing with before were now consuming it. They were where I was. And they would like, must have met up with, like, I don't know, at least 10 people that I used to know. And I was sober, and I was like, there's no way I'm going to get wrapped up in this again. So I literally didn't collect a single dollar. You know, I was like, I am done with this. And I gave them my phone number and everything.
If you would have kept pursuing that.
Yep. That's exactly it. I would have been sucked right back into that same routine of like, meet me here and whatever. So I just stayed away from them. I continued working.
So segue. So sorry to interrupt again, but isn't that interesting that kind of where a person, I've had this experience in my life, but it's like what you want to accomplish, like who you want to be, you have to let something go and an old part of you has to die. And it sounds like that moment that you're explaining right there, you're owed all this money and you're like, I want this money. And then something clicked and you're like, if I keep pursuing, I have to let this go. And probably not the easiest thing to do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was definitely banking on that money when I got out, because the people I was dealing with I was like, these are the ones I'm going to collect from. All the other ones, I can't ever find them. But I went looking for these people, like, and I found a lot of them. And I had to make a choice whether I would be persistent in trying to collect, whether it was like taking cars or something, but they didn't have anything. They were where I was when I got locked up. They were all on drugs. The sober people were on drugs. The people that were on drugs were missing, in jail, terribly bad off. And I had to let this go. I made a choice into, like, I already have a job. I'm just going to continue working. And my wife kept a tight hold on me. She would want to know exactly where I was at, why I was there. Like, it was worse than my probation officer. And I have a lot. I have a lot to thank her for because she's genuinely the one that had the tightest grip on me. You know, I couldn't lie to her because she knew exactly where I was at all the time. So I just kept working, and that was it, man. Like here and there, I've ran into people, and I don't even look their way no more, man. You know, I have I still have a lot of love for the people, but they don't love me back, man. You know, so I worry about my family, I worry about my kids, and this is the life I live now. So yeah,
Yeah.
I also
Um,
committed. I
so
also
you,
what
so
I
you,
did too, man. What I did too is I made a promise. I said if I can get out, have a job, like I will commit to going to church for a full year, and I actually did it. I went to church every single Sunday for a full year. And then this is terrible, but I haven't gone back. You know, and this has been like over 20 years now. I haven't gone back to church. And, but I fulfilled my promise to go to church for a full year. Really enjoyed it with my wife and my son. But anyway, yeah, that was the
yeah.
one
Well,
promise I
when we
made. I
keep
said, if I can get
commitments,
out, like, get a job, I'd go to church.
yeah, good man, good man. So you're working a job like you said for 4 years. A
Yeah.
lot of guys get out of prison and they are struggling to survive. So you're probably struggling to survive for a little while. But at what point did you pivot where you're like, okay, I'm going to work this job and I'm not going to go after all this money I'm owed, but I'm just going to figure it out. Where did you get into real estate? How did you get into that? Because a lot of guys get out and they struggle and they never figure anything out. Usually they just go
Yeah.
back, right? So you went a different direction and started investing in real estate. How'd that happen?
So I'm very fortunate to have a very disciplined family. And where that happened for me was, I want to say 7 to 8 years after I got out of jail. So how this happened was I continued my employment with the same rebar company that I was in for all these years. And then I went to a bigger facility, and like there was a house behind my father-in-law's house, and I was like, I want to move here so you could, because my father-in-law was always been a big part of my life, and he helped us raise our first son, especially when I was gone locked up in jail. He was a huge part of it. And so what I did was, so we bought a house in 2010. So I got out in 2005, and in 2010 is when I bought the house. So I buy a house, but it's not the house that I wanted. I wanted the house behind my father-in-law's house. And what I what I said was, if I could buy this house, my father-in-law is going to be there and help us raise our kids. So how all this worked out was my wife was taking our kids to school right behind my father-in-law's house. There's a school right there, and the house comes up for sale. The house that I've wanted for like 17 years or something like that, and comes up for sale. And my wife drives by and she's like, "Hey, the house is finally for sale. We should try to buy it." So my sister, which she's been in real estate and she does very well for herself, I give her a call and I'm like, "Hey, I need your help. I need to go look at this house. Can you help me?" And she's got a real estate license, so we go look at the house. And so I didn't want to sell the house that I was at, so we made an offer on the house and we bought the house. So that became my second house. So what I ended up doing was I didn't want to sell my first house because I just fixed it up, and actually it's a house that you went over there and sold me the or the home security system for. That was my first house.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so yeah, so we kind of fell into it because my sister helped me out, but also because I didn't want to sell my first house. Um, so what we end up doing is where we move into the house that we currently live in, and we rent out my old house. And then about, I don't know, 6 months later, my sister's like, "Hey, if you like doing this, you should buy more." But I didn't have any money. Back then houses were like 100,000. Nothing like what it is now. So bought the house for
Yeah.
108,000. And then I started seeing prices of homes go up. It was like 120, 130, 140. It just started going up in price. And I was like, I'm basically being paid to own this thing. And so my sister tells me like, "Hey, there's some duplexes up for sale. Do you want to try to buy one?" And I was like, "I can't. I don't have no money. Like no, I can't." And she's like, "Look, all you have to do," and then explain to me the whole refinancing thing. And so that's what I did. I took money out of the house that I had originally bought, in 2010, which was now worth like 180 or 200,000. Took out, like 60 grand. I've never had all that money all at once. Took out 60 grand, bought the duplex with it. And then as I'm fixing up this duplex, prices of homes are just skyrocketing. Like I bought the duplex for like 250, and then like I'm fixing it up and I'm setting up the fences and everything, and then the neighbor comes out all screaming at me saying like, "Hey, you're building the fence right on the property line. What are you doing? Like, you got to move it over 2 inches." And I'm like, "Dude, you can just I'll sign the paper saying this is yours. Like, I'm not moving it over 2 inches." So he's like, "I'm going to sell this place and I don't want no issues in the future. And like, you need to move it over." And I was like, "I'm not moving this thing over. If you're going to sell it, why don't you sell it to me?" And I was sarcastically saying that I didn't have the money to buy it. And sure enough, he gets my number, calls me up about 6 months later and offers me the place. So I took out some of my retirement money from work and refinanced the duplex that I just bought and took out a bunch of money and bought the second duplex. And like, so now I have two duplexes, so four apartments right next to each other. And then like, it just snowballed. The more properties that we started owning, the more equity that we started getting, and I started using some of the equity and started buying more real estate. And I've been out of prison for 21 years. I mean, I don't have this liquid cash, but I have over $3 million in real estate. So that's what I've been able to
So hold on.
accumulate in real estate, and I kind of just fell into it in accident.
So fast forward to today. You said, so what does your real estate portfolio look like now? As you said, you have how many millions of dollars in real estate?
I got about $3.2 million worth of real estate. I own four single family homes and four apartments. And then I have a shared property out in Ridgefield with my father-in-law that we bought a 2 acre lot for 20 grand back in like 2011 in Ridgefield. So that thing's got to be worth a couple hundred grand. So yeah, it's
Nice.
yeah. And now with
That's
the
awesome, bro.
yeah, thanks, man. It's been, and it was all, I knew it was possible. I just didn't know how. And I'm so grateful that my sister was there all along and she kind of coached me through it. Like, do this and do that next. And this is how you refi. This is how you do this. And this is how you do that. So I learned it all from her, man. Like, I'm very, very grateful for her to have her as my sister. And, we were scared because we're always scared of like, what if someone doesn't pay the rent? Like we have to cover both mortgages, but it's actually a lot easier than people think it is to do this, but it is scary. So yeah, now I still have a job. I've been at my job for 18 years. So I never let go of my job. The good thing about the job that I'm at, so I worked at a place for 4 years, and then I switched over to the same style of work. They just paid me more. So my job has been at my job, like they pay me well, but the main reason why I keep a job is so that I can get loans. And so I just
Taxable
use my
income.
job. Yeah, I got a W-2 coming every year, so I use that, and that helps me buy real estate. The only what I figured, man, is the only way to truly be, or the only way to like be successful, like get financial freedom, is you need to have a third income, you know. And for me, that means 8 rental properties, and that's 8 streams of income additional to my wife's income and my own income. So every one of those property makes us money, but we just reinvested in more and more and more. And so I've learned a lot. I can't say enough, man. I'm truly blessed to have gone down this journey. And I do feel like if I didn't have these bumps in the road of like becoming a drug addict, going to prison, working really, really hard to rebuild my life, if I would have just fell into real estate and not gone through all of that, I would lose it. I would gamble with it. So lessons learned for me, like bumps in the road is who makes me, man. Like I'm so glad I went through everything, and I'm very proud to say that I don't consume any drugs. I don't think less of people that do. Just me personally, I choose not to dabble in it because I do find that I have an addictive personality, and if I just as like I was addicted to drugs, I got addicted and all into like real estate and trying to figure out every aspect of it. So if I get back into any kind of drug, I feel like it'll just suck me back in. So I don't have any temptation. I'm not worried about it. but I know myself well enough to not even flirt with it. I don't go near it. I've seen it. I still see it here and there. I don't mess with it. I don't touch it. I don't smell it. I don't hold it. I don't do none of that.
Awesome, man. Yeah, that is like such an amazing story and unconventional success coming from where you come from, because there's not a lot of people that I've met. I know you from, that was my first time in prison when I met you. And and I ended up working for the rebar company that you worked for a little bit. I know how hard you work. I got super strong. My hands got super strong messing with that rebar. Someone listening right now, or when they see this video, if they're where you once were, in the drug game, in trouble with the law, feeling stuck or down and out, like, what would you tell them?
What I would say, man, is it's never too late, and there's definitely hope. I think my best advice for anybody that's where I was is to surround yourself by people that you want to be like. And so if you yourself with people that you want to be like, you will see opportunities there. They will offer you opportunities. I see it so common that if you hang around with rich people, those rich people will offer you opportunities and they'll want to bring you up. If you hang around people that are consuming drugs or alcohol, those same people will offer you drugs and alcohol. It's really who you surround yourself with. And, if I've been there and the guilt that I felt by consuming drugs it was terrible. It would eat me alive. And I would purposely not be around people that cared about me because of the guilt that I felt. I couldn't even look him straight in the eyes. I had that look where I would look down or look to the side. Just man, people can get help, and the main thing is surround yourself by people that are doing well because that will rub off on you. So
Yeah, that's amazing. It's amazing that you say that, because to me, that really rings true. And it's something that I've had to learn as well, is that you are an accumulation of like the 5 people you spend the most time with, or you attract what you think about, and you also attract the things that you're afraid of. So if you're full of
yeah,
fear all the time about things, it's like you got to be around people, who are really trying to strive to better themselves and to, like, everything that you said, 100%. So, I mean, your story shows something super powerful, that a person can go from the darkest place imaginable, prison, crime, addiction, and still rebuild their life into something successful and meaningful. Vulnerable, but your story could really help a lot of people, including me. And so thank you so
yeah.
much.
Man, if you do get interested in real estate is a long-term investment. So it's not a get rich quick. It's not that. If you try that, you're going to lose. It's a get rich for sure, okay? But it's you got to be in it for at least 10 years. You will be very successful if you buy something now and look back 10 years from now. So they say when was the best time to buy real estate was 10 years ago. And when is the next best time to buy real estate? That's today. Because in 10 years, you're going to look back and you're going to say everything was half of what it is now. So think about that.
Yeah. I feel like there are some parallels there. I've had an opportunity to rub shoulders on a daily basis. Like, my whole circle of influence is different now, than when I when I was a younger man. No one I hang out with has been to prison. Everyone owns real estate. Everyone has a family and are married and, are grounded in that respect. My circle of influence consists of people that go to church and have a higher power, that they try to serve. So, your story really just for me is very inspiring, and I think that it has a lot of value to share with other people. And
Yeah.
obviously, since you're a father like me, I'm always giving the dad advice all the time and trying to mentor
Yeah.
my kids in the way that I think they should go. What better way than being a great example? So I'm super proud of you, man.
Thank you. Now I got grown kids, man. That 1-year-old kid that I had back when I met you, he's now 24 years old. He's on his own. He's out there in the real life, the real world, and luckily they didn't get to see any of that, man. They've heard about it. I've told them my stories. I'm not hiding this from them. I've told them, but I also feel like if they see where I came from, they would understand why I'm strict in different ways. And for me, man, what I did for my kids is they played sports. My two boys played football. My two boys played basketball, and then my girls. Right now, I'm at soccer practice, waiting for my daughter to get out. Like I have invested thousands of dollars in these kids to go to play sports, and I want them to have fun, and I also want them off the streets. So they're either in school or they're on a soccer field or a football field, and that's how we live, man. I don't have much time for myself right now, but the time I do have, I'm spending it with them. So it's a good
Yeah.
feeling.
Well, I sure appreciate you spending some of your time with me this evening. I've been inspired and I've been filled with inspiration.